At the company-wide town hall, my director laughed. Let's be honest, she's more of a cheerleader than a contributor. He turned to the crowd and snickered, rah-rah, right? I sat there smiling as he mocked me, then quietly pulled out my phone and emailed everyone a document showing he had been double-billing clients for months. Security was waiting for him before he even finished his last sentence. I work in corporate communications for a mid-sized tech firm in Dallas. Been there 7 years. Long enough to see 3 rebrands, 5 HR heads come and go, and more layoffs than I care to count. My title's Senior Communications Manager, but that doesn't begin to describe the crap I deal with daily: fixing bad messaging, chasing directors for updates, managing company-wide announcements that nobody reads but everyone complains about. For most of those 7 years, I kept my head down, stayed professional, stayed helpful. People liked me. At least I thought they did. I wasn't flashy. I didn't suck up to execs. I just worked. Until Marcus showed up. Marcus Delaney joined the company about 3 years ago as Director of Operations. No one quite knew what he did. He talked a lot in meetings, sent long emails filled with buzzwords, and made a big show of staying late and pacing around like he was solving national security issues. Tall guy, always in tailored suits, always acting like he was one step ahead of everyone. People bought into it. The CEO loved him. The board smiled when he spoke. The interns looked at him like he was the blueprint. But if you paid attention, really paid attention, it was clear Marcus didn't actually produce anything. He moved PowerPoints around. He slapped his name on other people's work. He played politics like a goddamn pro. And he hated me. At first, I assumed it was because I didn't fawn over him like the rest. Or maybe because I was the one person who always pointed out communication gaps in his projects. He'd send updates late, full of contradictions, and I'd have to clean them up before they went to clients. Every time I fixed his mistakes, he'd get annoyed. But what really set him off, I think, was that I didn't treat him like a genius. I treated him like what he was: sloppy, loud, and a little too sure of himself. So he started doing little things. Leaving me off emails. Ignoring my messages. Making weird comments in meetings, like let's loop in someone who actually does this for a living, even though it was my job. But I bit my tongue. I always bit my tongue. Until the town hall. It was a Friday afternoon. These all-hands meetings were usually a mess, people pretending to pay attention while checking Slack, fake laughing at executive jokes, smiling through layoffs that came wrapped in phrases like right-sizing and strategic adjustments. I'd even written some of those scripts myself. I was sitting in the third row with my team. I remember I wore a blue sweater. I remember because halfway through, I realized my palms were sweating, and I kept rubbing them on my jeans. Raj, the CEO, opened the town hall. Did his usual vague optimism routine. Then he handed things off to Marcus. Marcus grabbed the mic and swaggered to the middle of the floor like he was hosting SNL. He cracked some joke about remote work. Raise your hand if you've worn pants every day this week. Then moved into department updates. He barely looked at his slides. Just talked. Loud. Fast. The kind of talking that makes dumb people think someone's smart. And then he saw me. Before I forget, he said, pausing to look directly at me, let's give a round of applause to Denise over there. People clapped. I gave a tight smile and nodded. Denise keeps the morale up, always smiling, always clapping, always positive. Real team spirit. I felt a weird knot in my stomach. He kept going, she's like our company cheerleader. Nervous laughter. I looked around. Some people smiled at me like, ah, how nice. But Marcus wasn't done. He tilted his head, smiled wider. Let's be honest, she's more of a cheerleader than a contributor. That one hit. People laughed, louder this time. My face burned. I forced a smile. My jaw locked. He turned to the crowd, did a fake cheerleader pose with jazz hands, rah-rah, right? Now people were really laughing. My own boss, Paul, chuckled. Some even clapped again. Like it was a roast. Like I wasn't sitting right there. I didn't say anything. I didn't cry. I didn't leave. I just smiled. Because at that moment, I remembered the folder sitting on my Google Drive. The one I'd labeled Marcus, billing issues. The one I'd built quietly for 6 weeks. It started with a single email. A client CC'd me by mistake, asking why they were being charged twice for the same consulting block. I wasn't even assigned to that project, but it looked off. So I checked the invoice. Then I checked our internal tracker. The numbers didn't match. I flagged it to finance. They said it was probably a mistake. It wasn't. A week later, a different client forwarded a similar complaint. This time I dug deeper. Marcus had been double billing hours, padding expenses, listing vague strategy alignment meetings that never happened, using different project codes to hide repeats. Some charges were even split into 2 months so they wouldn't be noticed. I compiled everything. Screenshots, Slack messages, PDF copies, a timeline. I even recorded a Zoom call where he casually told a junior analyst to round up the hours if it looks better for the report. I didn't know who to trust, so I sat on it. Until that moment in the town hall. When he mocked me in front of everyone, minimized my work, turned me into a punchline, something in me snapped. I pulled out my phone. Opened Gmail. Typed fast. Subject, urgent, potential fraudulent billing by Director of Operations to Raj, Legal, CFO, COO attachments, 47 files. I didn't write anything dramatic. Just laid out the facts. I didn't even hit send right away. I waited until he started his next slide. Something about cross-functional agility. Then I pressed send. 15 minutes later, 2 security guys entered through the back of the conference room. Big, quiet men with earpieces. No smiles. Then Cheryl from HR walked in, holding a file folder. She whispered to Raj. Raj stood up, nodded grimly, and walked onto the floor mid-slide. He tapped Marcus on the shoulder. They whispered. Marcus's smile dropped. He looked over at me, eyes wide, mouth slightly open. Raj gestured. Security flanked him. Marcus tried to argue. Tried to say something. But no mic now. They walked him out. Not another word from him. The room was silent. After Marcus was let out, no one knew what to do. Raj came back to the mic like nothing had happened. Said something vague about a private matter that needed immediate attention and wrapped the town hall early. People shuffled out of the room confused and whispering. I heard someone ask if Marcus's dad was okay. Someone else mumbled about a surprise promotion. I just walked out quietly and went back to my desk. 10 minutes later, I got an email. Subject, confidential, follow-up required from HR compliance. They asked me to meet with HR and legal in the 9th floor conference room right away. No context. No detail. I went. Heart pounding. Inside were 2 people from legal, Cheryl from HR, and a man I'd never seen before who introduced himself as a forensic accounting consultant. That's when I knew this wasn't just a slap on the wrist. They were investigating. They asked how I found the billing discrepancies. I told them exactly what happened, start to finish, no embellishments. I made it clear I hadn't shared the info with anyone else. Just them. When I showed them the folder I'd put together, the consultant actually said, "You've done half our work already." They asked me to keep quiet, not to talk to coworkers, not to mention Marcus, not to bring it up even off the clock. I nodded. I didn't care about the attention. I just wanted the truth to stick. By the time I got back to my desk, Marcus's email had been deactivated. By Monday morning, all of his calendar invites disappeared. No one had officially said a word, but everyone knew. His office was empty. His name gone from the org chart. Still, no one told the staff what happened. Not that week. Not the next. Then, the retaliation started. It began small. My team lead, Paul, the same one who'd chuckled during Marcus's cheerleader joke, suddenly got cold. Stopped inviting me to planning meetings. Gave my projects to a junior associate and claimed it was for development opportunities. I was removed from the Q3 strategy session without explanation. One day I walked into the break room and people stopped talking. Another day, my favorite lunch buddy, Sheila from finance, said, "I don't want to be rude, but Cheryl said I should be careful about getting involved in anything political." I wanted to scream. I had done the right thing. I had exposed fraud. I had protected the company. But instead of thanks, I was being iced out like I was the problem. 3 weeks later, I got called into HR again. This time they said they'd received feedback that I was making others uncomfortable, that I was revisiting old issues and disrupting the flow of work. I asked who complained. They said they couldn't say. I sat there, stunned. They offered me a coaching plan. A probationary outline. Suggested I rebuild trust and reflect on my communication style. I told them I'd think about it. Then I walked out, went to the parking lot, and sat in my car for 20 minutes shaking. That night, I went through every file I had saved. Looked at every email, every Slack message, every calendar note Marcus had sent. I wasn't looking for more fraud this time. I was looking for names. Turns out, Marcus didn't work alone. He'd CC'd Paul on multiple invoice approvals. He forwarded expense reports to a project coordinator named Tanya with notes like, "Keep this off the books, but bill it through 340 dev." In one email, he even thanked someone in finance, Sheila, for pushing that Q2 split through with no red flags. Suddenly, the silence made sense. They weren't ignoring me because they were scared. They were ignoring me because they were involved. They thought if they isolated me, I'd go away quietly. They were wrong. The night I found those emails, I couldn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table until 3 a.m. with a legal pad and a cold cup of coffee, trying to make sense of how deep it went. I had copies of everything. That's the thing people like Marcus always forget, communications runs through me. I write the announcements. I archive the calendar invites. I keep the system clean and organized. Every time they slipped up and left a trail, I had it stored somewhere. It wasn't just Marcus. Paul, my team lead, had signed off on at least 3 padded project reports. I had PDF copies. Tanya, the project coordinator, had marked time logs that didn't match calendar entries. And Sheila, she wasn't just looped in by accident. She flagged billing anomalies and then signed off on the payments anyway. There was even a Slack conversation where Marcus joked, "Tell Denise it's a typo if she asks, she's harmless." They underestimated me. They always had. I printed it all out. Labeled it. Built a second report, this time not just about Marcus, but about the network that kept him safe. I knew legal was investigating him, but I also knew how these things usually go. Fire one guy, bury the rest, pretend it never happened. But I wasn't going to let them bury this. I didn't go back to HR. I sent the new packet directly to our outside legal counsel. The one listed in the employee handbook for whistleblower protections. I CC'd the CFO and wrote in the body, "This information supports a broader pattern of internal fraud, collusion, and retaliation against an employee who reported it." I didn't hide my name. An hour later, my phone rang. A lawyer from the outside firm asked if I'd be willing to speak under attorney-client privilege. I said yes. We set up a Zoom call that afternoon. That's when the second investigation started. The fallout came fast after that. Week 1, Tanya went on medical leave with no return date. Week 2. Paul resigned to pursue other opportunities. No going away party. No LinkedIn post. Week 3, Sheila was escorted out. No one even pretended to explain that one. HR never said my name. Not once. But people started guessing. Some gave me a wide berth. A few others, quietly, carefully, started thanking me. One guy from IT dropped off a coffee at my desk and whispered, "You're brave." We all saw what he did. No one said anything. Still, it wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Because 3 days later, I got an email from Marcus. Not his old work account. A personal Gmail. Subject line, "You happy now?" There was no message. Just a screenshot of a news article, a local business blog reporting he was being sued for breach of contract and fraud by one of our clients. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. But it told me something important. He knew it was me. Then came the real twist. A month after Marcus was fired, Raj, the CEO, held a private exec meeting. Not a town hall. A closed-door meeting on the 12th floor. But someone from the AV team slipped and routed the audio to the wrong internal feed. For 10 minutes, anyone logged into the remote meeting platform, including me, could hear the conversation. And that's how I found out that Raj knew. He knew about the billing issues 6 months earlier. Marcus had warned him there might be a few irregularities, and Raj told him to keep it quiet, clean it up fast. They hadn't just failed to act. They covered it up. When the COO brought up my report during the meeting, Raj said, "I swear to God, she's a communications lead. Not an auditor. This is why you don't give small-timers access to sensitive reports." That was the moment I realized I wasn't done. I had taken down Marcus. But the rot went all the way to the top. After hearing that meeting feed, something in me shifted. I had thought this was about Marcus. About one smug, crooked man who thought it was funny to humiliate me in front of the company. But it wasn't just him. He was a symptom. The real sickness was the system that let him thrive. Raj, our CEO, knew. He let it slide. Because to him, Marcus got results. That was the only thing that mattered. And me? I was just a cheerleader. I'd already blown up Marcus's career. I'd helped force out his little circle. But Raj had tried to bury it. Quietly push everyone out, then pretend like it never happened. No announcement. No accountability. Just clean the blood off the carpet and keep walking. I couldn't let that happen. I still had the audio. The 10 minutes of that private executive call had been accidentally recorded to our internal platform before IT pulled it down. But not before I'd saved it. I played it over and over for 2 days. Memorized every line. The part where Raj said, "If legal asks, we say we didn't know." The part where the CFO asked if I could be silenced quietly through HR protocol. The part where Raj actually laughed and said, "She should be flattered, no one mocks a nobody unless they're threatening." I knew what I had to do next. So I started writing. Not an email. Not a formal complaint. A report. A letter. A story. I documented everything, from the moment I got that client email about double billing to the moment Marcus mocked me on stage. I laid out the retaliation, the HR meetings, the second layer of fraud, and the cover-up by the CEO. I added timestamps, files, direct quotes. And yes, I included the audio clip, trimmed and subtitled. Then I uploaded the whole thing to a secure Google Drive. And I sent the link, anonymously, to 4 places: the board of directors, the local business investigative journalist who covered the Marcus lawsuit, the external auditor assigned to our company for annual compliance, and finally, the entire company Slack. That last one was petty. But I needed them to see. The effect was instant. The board called an emergency meeting that same day. HR froze. Legal went into lockdown mode. By noon, Slack was a war zone. People whispering, sharing the file, wondering if it was real. IT tried deleting the post, but it was too late. It had already been downloaded, shared, and saved. At 3:17 p.m., Raj stepped down voluntarily. At 3:38 p.m., I was asked to come to the 9th floor again, not by HR this time, but by the acting board chair. She didn't threaten me. She thanked me. Genuinely. Said the board had been suspicious about Marcus's numbers for a while but hadn't had proof. Said she wished I'd come to them directly, but she understood why I didn't. Then she offered me something I didn't expect, a promotion. Head of Internal Ethics and Communications. A brand new position. One that would report directly to the board. I said no. Because here's the part where I admit something, I wasn't completely innocent either. I could have reported Marcus sooner. I could have said something the first time I found a bad invoice. But I didn't. I waited. I watched. I built my case knowing I might use it one day. I told myself it was self-protection, but deep down, I think I wanted to hurt him. And I did. I also sent that Slack blast out of spite. I knew it would burn people. I wanted it to. That wasn't noble. That was personal. So I told the board no. I didn't want a promotion for doing what I should have done sooner. I asked for something else, a severance package. A public acknowledgement of what happened. And a donation in my name to a local nonprofit that helps women in corporate whistleblower situations. They agreed. My last day was quiet. No party. No goodbye email. I packed my desk, nodded to the few people who still made eye contact, and walked out without looking back. Marcus lost everything. His name is tied to an open lawsuit. He tried starting a consulting business, but clients pulled out as soon as the article dropped. Last I heard, he moved back to Michigan and was working under an alias. Raj disappeared from the corporate world. Rumor is he tried to get hired at a healthcare startup and the board there rejected him after seeing the story. No one wanted to take the risk. Paul? Sheila? Tanya? No one really talks about them anymore. Their names come up in whispers. Like people who got caught cheating on an exam. No one really respects them now. As for me? I started consulting. Freelance. Small clients, real work. No more corporate lies. I get to choose who I work with now. And sometimes, when a client gives me attitude or tries to downplay my work, I smile politely and remember the day I was called a cheerleader in front of 150 people. And the look on his face when security took him away before he could finish his last sentence.